All right, sir, if you'll face the clerk and raise your right hand, please.
Swear and affirm that the testimony that you will give will be the truth and the whole truth.
I do.
Have a seat, please. I'll ask you to adjust your seat and get up close to the microphone so you can speak into it. And then I'll ask you to state your name and then spell your name for the record.
Yes, sir. My name's Paul Dickinson, Paul-Dickinson.
Thank you, sir.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. Mr. Dickinson, where do you currently work?
I work for Baker County Fire Rescue.
How long have you worked with the Baker County Fire Rescue?
Close to 15 years.
Where did you work before that?
I've worked for a couple other agencies in private ambulance services. I worked for Suwannee County, Century Ambulance Service in Jacksonville, Lifeguard Ambulance Service in Lake City when they were there.
So how many years of experience do you have in this line of field?
20 plus.
Can you tell the jury your education?
As referring to what I do now, I
Sure.
became an EMT. Once I was finished with my EMT, pursued my paramedic. After that, I obtained a bachelor's degree in criminal justice as well as my associate's degree in EMS.
Mr. Dickinson, how long have you been an EMT? I'm sorry, did you say?
Yes, sir, paramedic.
Yes, sir.
Pretty much about 20 plus years, about 24 or so.
And what are your current duties and responsibilities?
I am an officer with Baker County Fire Rescue. We provide 911 services to the residents of Baker County. Emergency response.
In your career, approximately how many emergencies have you responded to?
There has been thousands plus.
Thousands.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jury when you respond to a scene, what do you normally first do?
One of the very first things we do is we look for our safety. We look to make sure that the scene is safe for us to approach. And once we identify our patient. Once our patient is identified, whether the number of patients and who that patient is, we immediately go to assess that patient.
And then you care for that patient?
Yes, sir. Assess for injuries or illness of that patient.
You assess the patient?
Yes, sir.
When you respond to a scene and you assess a patient and you care for a patient, do you write a report as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. What is the purpose of writing a report?
To remember the events of that day or what happened on that call.
When do you normally write the report when you respond to a scene?
As soon as possible when it's finished. If it's feasible, as soon as we get back to the station and have access to a computer to do that.
And what is the purpose of writing a report?
To document the events of their call and to be able to remember what happened on that call.
Would it be fair to say that because of how many numerous calls you refer to, that writing a report helps memorialize what occurred on that day when you responded to that scene?
Yes, sir.
And would you say those reports are accurate as to what occurred on those days?
Yes, sir.
Let me take you to July 19th of 2023. Did you respond to a call on that day?
Yes, sir.
When you responded, were you by yourself or did you have a second crew member?
No, sir. I had a second crew member with me.
And who was that second crew member?
That was Laura Lee Gonzalez.
And who was the lead crew member?
That would be me.
Where did you respond to?
The address specifically,
Yes.
give me a minute. Let me refer to my report and I'll give you that address.
Yes, sir.
We responded to it was 4596 Estate Street in
And that's here in Baker County, Florida?
Yes, sir.
And if you need to refer to your report from time to time, just let me know.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what time you arrived?
Again, let me refer to my report and I'll give you that.
Yes, sir.
We arrived on scene at 1317.
What would 1317 be?
117.
117?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you first arrived, can you tell the jury what did you first see when you first arrived?
My partner walked in ahead of myself, and I walked in behind her. We found the child laying on the seat of a side-by-side vehicle in a garage.
In the garage of the residence?
Yes, sir.
And did you see anyone with the child?
There were bystanders there, but I don't think there was anybody like right next to the child.
What did you and your second crew member begin to do at that moment?
My partner was ahead of me, and she started chest compressions, and I started ventilating the patient with a BVM, a bag valve mask.
And what is that again?
Bag valve mask, it's a device used to provide artificial ventilation.
And why
for
was
someone
that
not
used
breathing.
on this patient?
Because the patient was not breathing.
Can you describe how the patient appeared to you?
The patient was hot to the touch. She was pulseless and apneic, not breathing, and had no pulse.
Did you determine at a later time how old the patient was?
Yes, sir. At some point we did.
And what did you determine?
Let me refer to my report.
Yes, sir.
Patient was 10 months old.
10 months old. And did you also determine her name?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
I'm looking at my report. I'm sorry. That
That's
was
all right.
Araya Page.
Araya Page.
Yes, sir.
Did you determine if Araya had suffered a cardiac arrest?
Yes, sir.
Can you explain what that means?
That is a absence of a heartbeat.
Did you determine if Araya had suffered a cardiac arrest before you arrived there?
Yes, sir.
Did she?
Yes, sir.
And how did you determine that?
Because she had no pulse on our arrival.
Okay. Do you know if CPR care was done by anyone before you and your second crew member arrived?
I believe bystander CPR was initiated, but my partner walked in before me, so I didn't personally witness the bystander CPR.
But then when your second crew member walked in, she took over.
I believe so, yes, sir.
And then when you arrived, you also attempted CPR.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jury what is first monitored rhythm?
That's the first rhythm that we see on the cardiac monitor when we put the patient on the monitor.
Was that done?
Yes, sir.
And what was the outcome?
The first monitored rhythm on this patient was asystole.
What does that mean?
That's without any systole. That's without any type of beat. They say flatline.
Basically
Yes, sir.
pulseless.
Pulseless.
When you first started to treat Araya, the patient, you said there was no pulse. Did she have any motor response at all?
No, sir.
You did chest compressions
Correct.
during CPR. Did it make any difference?
No, sir.
Did you administer oxygen?
Yes, sir.
Did it make any difference?
No, sir.
Still no pulse, no motor responses.
None.
Can you describe to the jury how the patient felt when you touched her?
Hot to the touch. And her skin was dry. She was hot to the touch.
What about her lips?
They were
Anything unusual?
cyanotic.
I'm sorry, sir.
They were cyanotic.
What is that?
It's blue in color.
What is rigor mortis?
Stiffening of the muscles after death.
So that only occurs, obviously, after a patient has passed.
Yes, sir.
Did you notice any signs of rigor mortis on Araya?
Once we were en route to the hospital, we did.
What signs did you notice?
One of the crew members that rode with us, we put a firefighter in a truck with us to ride with us to help with the call. And when he tried to open her mouth to ventilate the patient, because he had took over ventilations, he noticed some stiffness there, and we also noticed some stiffness in her arms.
You transported Araya, the patient, to Ed Frazier?
Yes, sir.
And then as she was transported to Ed Frazier, was her care basically turned over to the doctor who was there and the staff that was at Ed Frazier?
Yes, sir.
Did that complete your involvement, Mr. Dickinson?
Yes, sir, it did.
Your Honor, I think that's all I have. I do tender the witness.
Cross-examination?
Afternoon, Mr. Dickinson. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
You said you've been doing firefighter, paramedic EMS for 25 years?
Yes, sir. 20 plus.
20 plus, I'm sorry. And Mr. Yasti had asked you some questions. I only want to cover one with you. You mentioned at the very end rigor mortis. And again, what is that again? I'm sorry.
Stiffening of the muscles after death.
In your training experience, do you know how long after death rigor mortis starts?
Couple hours,
Hours?
2 to 3 hours.
So in this case, Araya had been deceased for 2 or 3 hours?
Very possible.
Very possibly? You said very possibly?
That's possible, yes, sir.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Can this witness be excused?
I think he can, Your Honor, yes.
No objection, being excused.
You are excused, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
State want to call its next witness, please?
Your Honor, could we approach briefly concerning the next witness, if that's all right? Could we approach briefly concerning the
Yes.
next witness?